People are not born in a vacuum. Time, place, and circumstances provide the navigational map for life. Vernon Peoples was born in Florida during the Depression. To understand Vernon, you must know something of his heritage. Vernon's ancestors migrated to Florida more than 100 years before he was born. They had an active role in shaping the life of the territory of Florida.
The first that came here would have been from Scotland, from Peebles, Scotland. Peeblesshire is the county. It's about 28 miles south of Edinburgh. On my mother's side of the family, it wasn't Scotch and English as it was from my father's family. It was Spanish. Narcisco and Mary Concepcion Rodriguez de Nota were my mother's great-great-grandparents. They were natives of La Orotava on Tenerife Island in the Canary Islands. I don't know what year that they first came here, but they got their citizenship through the federal court of Key West. In succeeding generations, they moved from coastal North Carolina, from Virginia to coastal North Carolina, to coastal South Carolina, to coastal Georgia, and then into Florida. I never had an ancestor who lived north of the Mason-Dixon line. Our history, locally, and nationally, and worldwide, is certainly important, and not only in telling who we are, but how we got to where we are. And we need to know what the mistakes were that have been made, and what can be done to improve life, not just in Punta Gorda or Florida, but around the world. Yes, I grew up here. My father owned a grocery store here, and you get to know everybody pretty quick if you're around a grocery store. But I was always interested in people and in politics because, first of all, I had a father who had already been in the State House of Representatives, and he was very active, and a great-grandfather and a great-great-grandfather who were all in the Florida legislature. And the first legislative session that any of them served was 1840, which was before Florida became a state. I went to Tallahassee when I was 11 years old as a page, without adult supervision. There were 60-day sessions every other year, and I was fortunate enough to be elected a page in 1941. There were 8 pages. You had to run for the position and to be elected by the membership of the House. And you had to start running about a year in advance. There were 92 candidates for page when they selected 8, and I was 5th among the 8. Being a page doesn't sound like much. They carry a note from legislator A to legislator C, but you're taking messages to anybody who's in the whole Capitol, to the Supreme Court justices, to the governor, to the cabinet officers. And you got to know these people because they saw them regularly. And I was pretty young, and I was certainly the smallest page in size. Members of the legislature got free passes to all the movies. There were 3 movies in town. One of the movie houses was only a block from where I lived. And then I also had the state library where I could spend free time during the day. What I'm telling you is that there was not any problem at all of me taking care of myself. I felt at home. This may sound strange or condescending, but I don't believe that there's any accomplishment that I made that was more important to my life than marrying Edna Jane. Now, there are other things that I did that were important, but nothing quite as important to my whole life as that. I met Edna Jane the day she was 15. I was already 15. I'm 8 months older than her. How long were we married? 63 years. But we went together for 6 years before we were married. Ed Jane was the most proud of. First of all, she delivered 3 healthy babies to the world. And the second is, and we educated all 3 of them. That'd be her take on the most important things that she did. It affected my whole life because I had somebody who cared, who loved me, who was going to give me the best advice that she had, and she wasn't going to be ignored, I can tell you that. It's wonderful to have a feeling that somebody not only loves you, but understands you and knows how to manipulate you. And in her letters, I'm not quoting her verbatim, but what she was saying to me, that no matter what you do in life, I will be there to help you. I will make you a better person. That was the theme of all those 6 years of letter writing. And the theme of mine was, and I didn't understand this till I read the letters just recently, that is, I will make you happy. And I did that pretty well.
Vernon was the 4th generation of his family to serve in the Florida legislature. Vernon is a Floridian and a Democrat, proud of his heritage. He has always cared about people. He sees where we, as a society, have failed to live up to our creed and feels compelled to work to make life better for the least of these. His guiding principle has been that everyone is entitled to an opportunity to be everything they are capable of being.
I was always a strong supporter of public education, making it as quality and opportunity as young people could have. The opportunity to create the Charlotte County campus of Edison was extremely important. I was chairman of the House Higher Education Committee at the time. I was in a position politically to make something happen. I had the opportunity, I took advantage of it, and we got a very beautiful campus here. We have a democratic, federated, presidential, congressional republic. Okay. It was very important to me that we remain essentially what I just described, and to do a better job in educating people so that they could be, first of all, better citizens and they can vote more intelligently. We have some problems now that if they continue unresolved, we may lose a democratic, federated, presidential, congressional republic. Transportation, which is so vital to everything that we do, but we were not funding transportation nearly as we should, and I was involved in helping to increase the road tax. Mental health, of course, is a big consideration. G. Pierce Wood Hospital in DeSoto County served 18 counties in the catchment area, including Tampa and St. Petersburg. And there are efforts to close it, and I certainly fought not to close it, but to provide more revenue so that they could do a better job than they were able to do with the funding that they had. All right, you're going to get some good headlines, you're going to get some bad headlines. That's part of being in an elected public office. That's policy making. First of all, you talked to any newspaper reporter that wanted to talk to you, and you gave them the time that they wanted, and you told them the truth. So I got a lot of favorable headlines because newspapers were kind of shocked to hear somebody who was maybe as old as I was, because I was older than most people who were first elected, but I knew so much about the legislature. That was going back to the days I was a page. I knew the system, I knew how it operated, I knew the psychology of it, and that may not sound like much, but it's a huge advantage in dealing with it. I made a point to get along with the press, and they're always very cordial. Now that doesn't mean they always endorse what I said, but the fact is they did believe me and they trusted me.
I have been privileged to know and to have worked with Vernon Peoples. When I first came to the Charlotte Community Foundation, it was at that time the Charlotte County Foundation. Vernon had been on the board and a leader of that organization since its inception. That was like 30 years ago. And even at that time, he understood the importance of a foundation for our community. But it was through his leadership and guidance that we actually have a true community foundation here in Charlotte County. Near and dear to Vernon's heart is education. Even early on in the foundation's history, 2 scholarships were established. He and Edna Jane established a very important scholarship fund with a very generous donation to recognize his friend and mentor, Leo Wititsky. And that scholarship fund has now been supporting students again in Charlotte County for the past 11 years. Of all the things that Vernon is recognized for, and he's done so much for our state, so much for our educational system, so much for the history of Punta Gorda and Charlotte County and the state of Florida. The thing that I feel was his greatest contribution was his direction and leadership for the Charlotte Community Foundation. Through it, his legacy will live on. It will live on for good. It will live on forever. And I just want to say thank you, Vernon.
Now, what I hear people say, and often, oh, they get older and then they got money and they can give. Well, I just wanted to give something back to the community. That always kind of was a rough edge with me. If you want to get something back, what did you take? I believe that when a person is born, they have an obligation to society. And they need to repay that obligation every day of their life. But those that have been more successful have an obligation to those who have not been successful. And that's what people should think about. First of all, people who are dead, gone, aren't remembered very long. So whatever praise they got it just in time before they died. But, well, I want to be remembered as a person who tried their very best to improve the quality of life and to provide a quality educational opportunity to everybody, because it's so critical to the survival of a representative democratic form of government. People have to be educated, and a democracy cannot survive without educated people. The things that are probably what made this country great, one is a quality public education system. The raw materials that we had in the land, that was so valuable. And the third would be our democratic form of government.
The Charlotte Community Foundation's Lifetime Achievement Award is intended to recognize extraordinary people devoted to causes that matter and truly monumental accomplishments in our community, a lifetime of contributions to the people of Charlotte County. Vernon's achievements and unparalleled leadership in community service, public engagement, and philanthropy embody the significance of this award.